Welcome to Chapter 8, Metabolism. Metabolism really is a measure of all the chemical reactions that occur within each cell of your body. The living cell is a miniature chemical factory where thousands of these reactions occur. The cell extracts energy and applies energy to perform work. Some organisms, such as the jellyfish on the screen here, even convert energy to light, known as bioluminescence. If you'd like a little bit more explanation about bioluminescence, I encourage that you check out the video right before this one on the website. It's a TED Ed that talks a little bit about bioluminescence. It's pretty good. Check it out. Okay, so back to metabolism and it being a measure of an organism's total chemical reactions in the cells. Metabolism is an emergent property of life that arises from interactions between molecules within the cell. Recall emergent properties that we spoke about in Chapter 1. A metabolic pathway begins with a specific molecule and ends with a product. So we have a beginning, and then something happens, and then something is made. Each step of the metabolic pathway is catalyzed by a specific enzyme. So once again, enzymes, they speed up a process, lowering the activation energy, allowing less energy to be used in order to move from, say, step A to step B, or from step B to step C. Catabolic pathways, on the other hand, they release energy by breaking down complex molecules into simpler compounds. Cellular respiration happens to be the breakdown of glucose in the presence of oxygen, would be an example of such catabolic pathway. Conversely, an anabolic pathway consumes energy to build complex molecules from simpler ones, so it's going the exact opposite direction. The synthesis of a protein from amino acids is an example of anabolism. Bioenergetics is the study of how organisms manage their energy resources. So speaking of energy, we need to clarify exactly what energy is. Energy is defined as the capacity to cause change. Energy can also exist in various forms, some which can perform work. Kinetic energy and potential energy are two different forms of energy. Kinetic is the energy associated with motion, and potential energy is the energy that matter possesses because of its location or structure. The image on the screen here does a good job tying together potential and kinetic energy. They do go hand in hand. We notice the location, potential energy, is higher the further you are away from the ground. So this person, if he were to jump off this platform here and hit the water, he's going to hit it with more force than, say, this guy right here. They'll both hit the water. He'll hit the water harder. He has a longer time in the air for gravity to act upon his body. The transition of movement as he jumps is called kinetic energy, whereas the release of the energy and it's transformed into motion. One of the more important forms of kinetic energy in relation to life would be heat or thermal energy, which is associated with, once again, movement, but this time of atoms or molecules. And heat is released, it's absorbed and released. And if you have a block wall in your backyard or something, at the end of the day, I encourage you to go out and just put your hand up next to the wall. You can get maybe 6-8 inches away. You can just feel the heat being released by the brick as it's been absorbed all day. So it's going from potential energy from the sun into kinetic energy, being absorbed by the block wall, building up and building up and building up, turning back into potential energy, and then as it's released, as the sun's going down, going back into kinetic energy in the form of heat or thermal energy. Another important form of energy, especially in biology, is a form of potential energy called chemical energy, and this is the amount of energy that's stored within our cells that is available for release in a chemical reaction. And as you can see by this slide and by what we've been talking about, it is possible to convert energy from one form to another. Now, the study of these energy transformations is called thermodynamics. And in thermodynamics, there's two systems. There's closed systems and there's open systems. Closed systems are things that are kept in isolation, specifically from the environment. For example, looking at hot coffee in a thermos, and then having the thermos sealed off with the lid. The coffee is isolated, it's going to stay hot. The energy is retained by the thermos and not lost to the environment. So that's a closed system. In reality, with living things in biology, living things live in open systems, which is where energy and matter can be transferred between the system as well as its surroundings. This brings up the two laws of thermodynamics. The first law, which is also called the principle of conservation of energy, states that energy can be transferred and transformed, but it cannot be created nor destroyed. And the second law states that every energy transfer or transformation increases the entropy, which is disorder, of the universe. Now, to touch on entropy as being defined as disorder, it could be defined as this. A delightful song by System of a Down, or it could be increasing the randomness of atoms and energy in our environment, such as the case with this cheetah running through the field here. As the cheetah is running and possibly killing this animal here, he is releasing heat to the environment, adding to the entropy of the environment. So he's increasing the randomness, and I have a second video here coming up shortly that does a much better job of clarifying exactly what that is here than I'm doing right now. But just know that as this cheetah runs through the field, he is releasing heat, increasing the disorder of the open system, which is the second law of thermodynamics. This leads about to the first law of thermodynamics. After that heat has been released, the cheetah can regain that energy from this animal right here who had to obtain the energy himself. So the energy is not being lost, it's just simply being transferred. Enter free energy. Free energy is essentially the amount of energy available for a living cell to perform some kind of work. Free energy is calculated by using the equation found at the top of the screen there. And free energy, more or less, is just a measure of will a reaction inside of a cell recur automatically, or does it need to obtain energy from elsewhere inside the cell in order to make that reaction occur. I'm going to end this part of the discussion right here, and please go on to the next video to check out the Bozeman video here. He does a very fantastic job of explaining the free energy and the free energy equation, and has a lot of animations that kind of help give it a more solid understanding than I can do on my screen here. So check that out, and then go on to the video after that, and we'll pick up from this slide and proceed.